Each country has its different cultural values and views that have long-term effects. We'll be looking into those differences between two different countries and how my guests feel that it affected their childhood and the person that they are now. My name is Alejandra Mota, and I'll be joined by two of my friends who have lived in England for all of their lives, as well as a friend who I grew up with here in the US. We'll be discussing the topics of parenting, teacher-to-student relationships, as well as health. There are many factors that affect growth in humans, but we'll be focusing on how the culture of a country affects a person's childhood. The definition of culture being the collection of everything produced by humans in different societies.
Hi, my name is Hugh. I'm 21 and I'm from the UK.
I'm Alina, I'm 18, and I'm from California.
My name is Sam. I am 20 and from the UK.
So we're going to start with the first question, which is, what did your parents focus on when parenting?
Asked my mom on the way here. So apparently it was to make good choices. Of course, she put a lot of focus on religion. And then since my dad is a police officer, of course, a lot of focus on safety.
And do you feel your country affected that, or do you think it's just more of an individual thing?
Probably more of an individual thing.
So my parents were mainly focused on the manners and being polite to strangers sort of aspect of things. Also focused on the health side of things.
Do you feel that what your parents focused on was affected by your country at all?
I'd say so. I think it was pretty individual.
So in terms of what my parents focused on, I grew up in a not very pleasant part of London, where I think it has one of the highest crime rates. So manners-wise, there was no real need to focus on it. And normally, I feel like the difference between a American household and an English one is you're out all day as a kid, and the only thing you get told is what time you need to be back for dinner. You're always just kind of out, and you're never really in.
Hey,
Bailey,
not
don't you think that in England, normally everyone is out as a kid?
True.
I don't know if it was different where you were.
No, that is true.
It was your parents gave you guys a lot of freedom compared to over here.
When you come back from school, you change out of your school clothes, and you just walk out the door. It's normally how it goes.
That was a bit different than what I did. I couldn't just leave it.
Oh, okay. So it's also an area thing. So were you guys able to see your friends often?
Yeah, every day. I live next to it. I don't know if they have them in America. They're called youth clubs. There was this big field and just the youth club on the end of it, and the field would just be full with kids. And because it was a shit area, there was just drugs going around, people drinking.
Yeah, I was able to see my friends often, and what we usually did was sports or
How about you, Alina? Were you able to see your friends often?
Yeah, I mean, when I wanted to, and if they were available, then yeah, I was able to. I'm a pretty boring person, so we kind of just watched shows and went to the movie theater, and that's about it.
That is boring.
Different, yeah, because it seems like in England you guys tend to go out more.
When you're younger, you go outside quite a lot.
As my guests discussed in this section, social norms, expected behaviors, and social situations vary from place to place, even within a country. And the country that you live in is not the only thing that affects how you are raised. We're going to be going into the teacher-to-student relationships sections.
I can answer the how much is education valued one. For me, because I went to private school, it seemed like education is valued in that parents are willing to pay more in order to benefit their children with. So I'd say it's valued quite highly.
Does anyone want to add to that?
Well, public school was pretty much the only option, and the teachers there, they hated their jobs. Well, that's something I've noticed between American teachers and English teachers. American teachers seem to enjoy their jobs. They want their students to have fun while they're there. Over here, they were miserable. They hated all the kids. They clearly hated their jobs.
I'd say that in private school, it's sort of half and half.
Well, I went to a public school. I feel like they respected their students and treated them fairly.
I think most of my teachers were pretty nice. Or
yes,
cared about their job. There was a couple that you could tell that they just did it as a job and not really because they wanted to. The biggest difference between each country in this section was that here in the US it's common for teachers to enjoy their jobs and to help support students, while in England it's more common to encounter teachers that only see it as a job. We're going to go into the next section of health and healthcare. If anyone wants to start this section off.
I know it's very suburban over there, but over here, for the most part, stuff is in walking distance. So for me, my gym is only like a 20-minute walk.
Yeah, so you go to the gym and also walking is pretty good for you. I feel like we kind of lack that over here because literally nothing is in walking distance, especially since I live in the suburbs.
Trying to get out.
Does your country encourage and make an effort to promote health to its youth?
Yeah, I say in school it was pretty put on you to sort of undergo sports and join like clubs and societies and that sort of thing.
Okay, well, I think that here we kind of lack that because only 2 years of PE is required in high school, and then after that, it's like you don't need to take
Wait,
PE.
what?
And they even
Yeah.
offer it online. I took an online
Wait.
course for
No, PE is every year. I had PE every year of school.
Yeah, no, here it's only 2 years is required. So I feel like over here, a lot of kids were kind of just, since they're
That's
like only
insane.
2 years required out of the 4 years you go to high school, everyone kind of saw it as a requirement and no one really cared about PE at all. They kind of made it as
Wait.
something you dread.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Everyone in the UK seemed to like look forward to PE. I was like,
PE was great.
best
PE,
sort
PE
of
was like
lesson.
the fun part of the day.
That's what I never understood. Our PE teachers would just stand there and watch us walk on a track. Nothing was encouraged. Like, they never encouraged, like, physical health, to be honest. Okay, we're gonna go into healthcare. How do you feel about
Yes.
healthcare in your country? I think healthcare in
Let's
this
hear.
country is so bad. Like, it's really bad. Like, even if you pay for healthcare, because you need to pay for healthcare most of the time, like, those healthcare companies do not care about you. How do you guys feel about healthcare in your country?
Well, healthcare in England, I may or may not have been scripted to say this, but it's free and we don't have to pay for it. But normally you have to be put on very long wait times. Like you could be waiting months and months to have something and or like see a doctor, or it's quite good.
Bailey, you have
Yeah.
private healthcare. How is your private healthcare over there? Because over here it still sucks.
Yeah, the private healthcare is usually quite good, and you could see people efficiently and see all kinds of doctors or whatever you need.
Alina, do you have any
Yeah, like-
opinions on healthcare here?
It's very expensive.
Oh yeah, it's expensive.
I know someone who, like, her family is just so against going to the emergency room for anything because it's so expensive. Like her dad would have a dislocated shoulder and he'll be just, oh, that's fine, and pop it back in without any medical help to avoid going to the doctors. So they don't have to pay the huge expenses.
I know, and that's
Yeah.
common here. Like avoiding going to the doctor, like just being like, I'm fine, which is like so dangerous. This section has the most differences between each country. Because of the way areas are built in England versus here, in England everything is built in a closer proximity to each other, which makes it easier to walk from place to place, while here everything is more spread out. It has pushed us to drive more. Also, Sam and Hugh seem shocked at how our school systems lack the encouragement in health, because in their country, the school health program is much better organized and living a healthy life is more encouraged. The last thing we discussed was the lack of healthcare here and the way that people avoid getting healthcare because of the price, while over in England, healthcare is provided to all when needed for free. In conclusion, this was a very interesting project to work on, and I'm happy that I was able to do it with my friends. I feel that I learned a lot, and hopefully you also learned that there are many differences between countries, but your country is not the only thing that affects your childhood. There are other aspects like financial status, family organization, and many other things that lead to the childhood that you and others had. I hope that you all learned something just like I did. Thank you for listening to this podcast. It was really fun to make.